Greetings, loyalists and heretics. Welcome to Iron and Ceramite, where we once again enter the war without an astropath.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Iron and Ceramite podcast. I'm John, and as always, I'm joined by Shane.
Hello.
Dave.
Hi guys.
Glenn.
Hi.
And Tom.
Hi guys.
So this week we're going to talk about a bit of list building. We've all prepared a 1,000-point list with our current armies that we're working on, and we're just going to sort of compare notes. None of us really, well, I say none of us. Some of us don't actually know what the hell we're doing, so we're going to be leaning on the others to sort of guide us. But we're going to just have a bit of a play in preparation for when we can actually get back together and hang out. But before that, has anyone actually been working on anything themselves this week?
So I was the only thing that I've been doing really this week since we last spoke was just sort of putting a few more contrast paints on the Hellblasters. I've done 10 Hellblasters, 5 Intercessors, and 5 Reavers because I want to start building up my Primaris ready for when we can actually play again. So I haven't actually done huge amounts, but it's taken a long time because obviously Black Templars putting a load of contrast paints on the covering up the main bits. So hopefully I've broken the back of it, but nothing too exciting, unfortunately.
Are you just at like a base layer across, or have you got some models finished?
Yeah, just base layers, nothing finished. Just grinding out the batch painting at the moment, so they're all sort of at different stages of readiness. And then hopefully I can add the finishing touches in the next week or so.
No, I was going to say I'm feeling the batch painting pain. I'm in the midst of batch painting Necron warriors, and I said I've got 5 done, 5 nearly done, and I think there's about 10 that are just primed. And it's like every time I look at them, I'm like, okay, we're going to get some real progress, and then they're never done. It's always that thing with batch painting is it's lots of little increments, and then suddenly you've got 20 units painted, but it's a bit soul destroying if you can't put in like a big 5-hour stint to get it all knocked out in one go.
Yeah, definitely.
What are you thinking of using for your Hellblaster rifles, Dave? Like with the effects, are you going to go with any special plasma effects or?
Yeah, well, I'm going to try. Again, probably going to bite off more than I can actually chew, but I've seen a few of the nice effects with the blue sort of plasma effects coming out of like. I don't think I'm going to do any of the lighting effects, but I think I'm just going to try and have it so there's white in the center and then gradiating out to being a bit darker. So we'll see how it goes, but that's what I'm going to actually go for a traditional plasma look, but we'll see.
Nice.
We know that you've been finally put some paint on some models, Glenn, because your Instagram has gone from inactive to 1 post.
Yeah. Well, mostly got inspired by watching you guys do your live paint-alongs on Instagram. So I had been working on a unit of guardsmen, mostly got them finished, about 80%. Just a few little details left to do. And then while watching you guys do another one, I got most of the base colours and a wash done on another 24. So yeah, that's real batch painting.
Absolutely.
You and your batch painting of 5s. That's not batch painting.
I can't do any more than that. It drives me insane.
Yeah, well, like it only took me maybe an hour to churn out the first color on the 24 because I messaged the guys and said, yep, you inspired me, I've done this, and they were like, what, 24? So yeah, it was first color simple. You can just slap that on quite easily and touch up where you've gone over the lines, as it were, as you go into your other colors. But that's mostly what I've been up to. Just
Tom, have you been painting much this week?
Not too much, mate. I did that. Obviously, I did the live thing on Insta with John, where I started painting that Kit Bash Captain. I know you probably won't be able to see it on the camera, but I've got most of the gold done now. I've washed all of the gold as well in Seraphim Sepia and some Agrax. Done his face, done his hair. Literally just got to put in the finishing touches now. You know, like the blood angels, blood drops, and all that type of thing. But yeah, that's it, mate. To be honest, but I'm really liking how it's coming out so far. So that's why I had to put him in my army. Had to have a kit bashed model or unit in the army, definitely. So yeah, I've enjoyed it so far, man.
Is that the only kit bash? I was going to say, is that the only kit bash model you've got? Because I thought you're always kit bashing.
Yeah, I've got tons. I mean, I've got like 4 lieutenants, 2 jump pack lieutenants, and 2 normal ones. Obviously, I've done a few captains and this, that, and the other. But none in it. Just for my 1,000 points, I thought I just use my good units. There's no point in the future. I can play around with all the rest of it. But I thought I'll put one major sort of leader figure in there because obviously it's a successor army. So I thought I should have something a little bit unique to me in there. So just maybe for my 1,000 point army, I just chuck one in. When we move up to 2,000, I'll have a bit of fun.
Fair enough. Easy kills for the rest of us, hopefully.
Yeah, it's coming from someone with a load of pox, boys.
I know on hobby updates, I've been watching, as always, loads of YouTube. And that Death from Above War Report or Battle Report guy I was doing, he did Space Wolves versus Death Guard the other day with both new codexes, and the Death Guard just tabled them in like 3 turns. It was a 2,000 point army, and it just looks like that they're going to be really tough with their current codex and everything that they've got going for them. He also had Mortarion on the table as well, and he looks broken. He just absolutely destroyed the wolves. But I was sitting there thinking, like, I don't think in my 1,000 point wolf list that I've got enough armor penetration to really cause the Death Guard problems.
You'll have to send me a link to that because I need to learn how to play, so and learn how to win. So
maybe I won't. I don't think I will send you a link.
I'll have to find it myself. Damn it.
No, it was good. And then I was going to say, Dave, I don't know if you've seen it, but Major Kill put up a new one. I think it might have even been this morning on is it Sigmarsund, the founder of the
Sigismund, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So I know you watch Major Kill as well, so it's worth a look because it's
brilliant. Have a look at that.
Pretty funny.
Awesome.
Nice.
Has any of you guys been reading anything lately? Like, I know you, John, you're still reading Fulgrim for the.
Yeah. I'm just over the halfway point now. I was messaging Shane earlier and just to see how he was doing, and it's the same as everything. Just forget how much bloody happens in these books. It's only 500 pages, but I mean, I'm halfway through, and yeah, I thought some things that happened in the book I thought didn't happen till right at the end. They've already happened. I am enjoying, like I've said a few times now, I'm enjoying reading them again because it's just tying up the first 4 books I've already read even more. But yeah, I'm still working my way through that at the minute.
What are you painting anyway, mate? Because I know obviously you're spending tons of time reading, painting, pretty much doing bits and pieces of everything, but you're still getting quite a lot working, aren't you, as well, on the old Plague Marines or whatever it was?
Yeah, so I finished my Blight Lord Terminators. So last episode I still had 3 left to finish. They're done now. And then I put on the Instagram, I put on the vote, same as Dave, to vote for which model I painted because I had 4 characters. So obviously on the live stream or live streams I did with you guys, I painted the Plague Surgeon up as well, and he's done now. And he's made his way into my list for today as well. Just something different.
Who's winning the second vote?
The Tallyman. The votes are low at the minute. But
the Tallyman. I want you to say
Tallyman.
That's what I vote for.
Yeah. Well, last time you all voted off multiple accounts as well.
Got to get those numbers up.
Yeah. Well, the first vote I did, it was a tie, so I just put the 2 together. But yeah, I think it will be Tallyman next. We'll know this time tomorrow. We'll know. Maybe I'll do a live stream on Instagram or something if anybody's free. Anyone fancies it?
When are you going to do that, mate?
This week.
Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. Depends. It's up to you guys. Whenever anyone's free, we'll just jump on.
Yeah, I'll be up for like 45 minutes, an hour or so, mate. Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
With either one of you, we can do a couple, can't we? If we're that pressed for something to do.
Yeah. Well, not a lot else to do at the minute.
No.
But in more exciting news, I broke my chair and bought a new one, and this chair doesn't squeak when I'm moving it, and it reclines. So I've pretty much not moved out of this chair for 2 days now. And then, did anybody else watch those videos I put in the chat? The little,
Which one?
The sort of animated Space Marines videos off YouTube. I can't remember the YouTuber's name now.
I've not got around to it yet.
But obviously
no.
we got told about the Krieg video, didn't we? I know you watched that one, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was okay. I mean, like the problem is, it was a decent story. It was quite, it's just the graphics. We've had Astartes now, and I think I know, everyone's going to base it on how great that was and everything, and everyone's going to judge things by that. But it wasn't even anywhere near the level graphically as that. But then there's not much that is really because that was so good. But it was still a decent 5 minutes.
Yeah, I watched it as well. I thought it was okay. Like you say, I couldn't do it, so
no,
it was all right. But then the other ones, they're all different, varying levels of quality. But the best one is the first one, where it is some Imperial Fists holding off some Chaos Marines. I'm not too sure what chapter they were, but that was pretty good.
Is that one of them videos? Because there's a few of them. There's one with the Black Templars as well. And is it the one where the graphics look really good until they move, and then they're a bit like, do you know what I mean? Their arms are a little bit
sped
like
up,
puppets.
sort of thing. Yeah. But I thought it was all right as well. It wasn't quite the level of Astartes, but it was all right, and pretty good. Good. No, it was only 4.5 minutes, but it was pretty decent. And then there's another one, the Black Templars one, where they're getting overrun. And then there was Ultramarines and some Death Guard in another one, and that was like, if it was a video game on the PC, you'd probably say it was good graphics, but watching it on TV, obviously it's not as good. But they're all good, like something different to Astartes that hopefully like these people are working on it and improving it, and something good will come from it.
Yeah,
they were quite interesting. A couple minutes of your time to watch.
Pretty much any other thing I've been doing. I've been reading that book, haven't I? The Purge. It's like a short story book for the Horus Heresy, and I think I've only got a few pages in. I'm about 25 pages in or so. But it seems like a really decent story because it's following this word bearer's captain, and it's when they're. I don't want to go into too many spoilers in the future, but obviously everyone knows that the word bearers eventually invade Ultramar. I won't go into any details of what happened, but it's following the aftermath of that, and it's pretty much his captain that he doesn't really agree with all the steps that his legion have took. So he's sort of loyal. He's still doing what he's told, though. He's a consummate professional, but he's just doubting everything. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out because he's got a lot of respect for the Ultramarines. All the others are just like they're nothing, pretty much. They can't stand them. We're just going to sacrifice them all to the dark gods. But he's like, if he kills like a squad of Ultramarines, he'll say no one touches them because he respects them so much. You leave them where they've died. We're not going to sacrifice their souls for the ruin storm and all that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. But I'll keep you updated anyway.
Mm-hmm. I can't imagine it will last long if he's questioning.
It does sound good though. I do like the lore behind the word bearers. I think they're quite interesting in how they went about. I was going to ask, did you get a chance to listen to any of that YouTube thing I sent through from 40k Theories on the chat, Tommy? I know it's a long one, so you probably might not have done.
Which one was that? Sorry, we've got so many messages on there. I often lose track of what's what.
It was the one that takes the heresy but swaps all the main characters around.
Oh no, I didn't actually. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I'll ping it again because it's well worth a listen. John, you'd love it as well, but I mean, we'd all probably love it, but it is spoiler heavy. So I think for someone that's read through it already and is also a Blood Angels player, it's quite interesting to see the other way around.
Oh man, but I'll definitely watch that tonight, then, mate. If you can remember to remind me, because my brain doesn't function very well.
I will. I'll ping it. As I said, it takes a little bit to get into, but once you're through the first sort of starting bit of it, you're into it. Then you just want to wait to see what happens next. But it's basically beat for beat the same as the heresy, but they've swapped like all the characters around. So like, it's not like Lorgar isn't the first heretic. It's actually Gilliman, and he finds a different artifact and stuff like that. But it's all the same beats, but it's just with a different Primarchs in place. So it's really interesting.
Oh, cool. I'll give that a watch then tonight, man.
Yeah, I'll ping it through.
Cool.
I'll get to it in about 8 years' time, I think, at this rate.
Yeah. What about any of you other guys? Have you been reading anything? Obviously, I've know
Reading
what
that
John's
Angel
doing,
of I've been reading Angel of Fire. Read another couple of chapters in that, so I'm still only a fraction of the way through it, but
yeah.
I'm enjoying that quite far. Like so far, I think it's quite an interesting story from a guardsman's perspective. I think I'm quite enjoying it. So.
What about you, Glenn? You don't really read anymore, do you? Or at the moment, anyway.
I keep looking at the Beast Arises book that I borrowed off you. What, maybe about 8 months ago now?
Yeah, well, not that long ago, was it?
At least I've got like halfway through it. It's just I find it like reading the Heresy series. You kind of get a little bit of continuation, whereas so far, obviously, only a couple of books into the Beast Arises series, it feels like starting something brand new with each book. So it's sort of, I get to the end of one, it's sort of, right, I got to build myself up to read again. There's a few characters overlapping and things like that so far, but yeah, it is the next book I'm going to try and finish. It's just a case of actually getting around to it and actually doing it.
So do you think it probably would have been better if they did what they did with the Heresy for the first 3, sort of doing very, like a continuation of the same story, almost like a trilogy?
Well, like the main character in the first one, like Spaceman wise, is in the second one, but he's not really that important. The main people that sort of follow through are people in the sort of a high level government on Terra, and it's sort of they're really exciting people. They are, so it's
quite political then, is it?
Yeah, it is a little bit. I mean, granted, it's sort of like the Master of Assassins dealing with the Master of the Inquisition, so it should be kind of they're interesting factions to be dealing with at sort of like a political level, but they just not grab me as much as some of the I don't need bolter porn, but just a little bit more action would be good. I'm sure, like, I've heard good things about the series, so I'm sure it gets good once you get into it. But first couple of books are very scene setting, kind of not sure what's going on, need to get an attachment to certain characters, and then I think I can feel it.
Yeah,
I'd really get into the story.
Well, you've made me really look forward to reading this then when I get it back.
What's that series centered around? Sorry.
So it's basically a massive orc invasion, sort of like across the entire galaxy, where they come through these giant moons with teleporters inside them, where they just pop up over a planet and annihilate the shit out of things, and then just disappear again.
So what is it, Glenn? Is it 32k, isn't it? It's about 2,000 years after Heresy.
Yeah. So it's all the chapters have been broken down from the legions, and it's sort of focused around, to start with, the Imperial Fists, who take an absolute pasting. So I think there's the rebuilding of them then over the next couple of books, where they borrow Marines from other other chapters that they're obviously their successors, and then they go after the Prime Orcs, which are the big giant orcs that are leading the whole invasion. So it's, like I say, it's a good story, but it just hasn't grabbed me yet.
Still warming up.
Yeah, very much so. I think we've been spoiled with the Heresy. It gets really good from the start.
Yeah. Different.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wait for you to finish it then, and you can tell us you can either tell us all about it, or you can tell us it's worth reading it.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we've sort of challenged ourselves to come up with a 1,000-point list each for our current armies that we're working on. But before we sort of get into it, so I've obviously done Death Guard. Dave, you are
Templars.
Templars. Glenn,
Astra Militara, or Guard for the old school players.
And Tom.
Adeptus Astartes, but I'm going with the Blood Angels, even though I call mine the Sanguine Reapers.
Cool. And then Shane's been greedy and gone for 2.
I've gone Necrons and Space Wolves.
Awesome. So before we go into our list, then, how should we talk about list building in general and just sort of how it works for anybody that doesn't know? Because obviously some of us have only been figuring it out over the last couple of days or weeks.
I mean, it's come on leaps and bounds from the last list I ever put together, which was a 2nd edition Space Wolves list from the old Codex on pen and paper, which I actually found in the loft at my parents' house the other day. A ridiculous list where the thing is, back then you could that's why the blood claws now are not strictly what you see as what you get, but you could have like 8 of them with power fists, because if you had the points you could put whatever you wanted on your models. So like I had a 2,000 point list, but about 1,500 points of it was in 10 blood claws because they were just armed to the teeth. And it's I'm glad to say that it's come on and it's become a bit more balanced now. But beyond that, as I said, I've just been playing around with the various apps and bits and pieces that you can do in terms of list building. Glenn, you've probably got more experience between 2nd and 9th.
Yeah, I mean that's where I started as well. So I know the absolute Death Star units you used to get in the old, where you chucked everything into one and it just went from unit to unit, kicking the shit out of whatever it hit, and then it moved on to the next thing, and nothing else had a chance of standing up to it. Yeah, it has come a long way. Even the way armies are composed now. So back then, I believe it was sort of percentages of like a troop, heavy support, things like that. Whereas now you've got all these nice fancy little detachments that give you a little bit of guidance as well to what to take in your army, depending on like a theme you want to build it around as well. So you've obviously got things like patrol right up to brigade, and they are your standard army lists, whereas things like Vanguard detachments are more focused around, obviously that's the elite one. So if you want to take elite units, or is that the fast attack? No, that's the elite one. So if you want to take much more of an elite army without having to bog down with troops, you can just sort of specialize. I'm of an older mentality of my armies used to be HQ, 2 troops, and then build from that. So I very much stick with things like a patrol or a battalion. It's just how my mindset works, and it works particularly well for armies like the Guard, because you're going to have a lot of infantry, a lot of bodies on the field, and most of the time I find numbers on the battlefield win the game, because most of the time you're not just going there to roll some dice and kill some stuff. You're actually going to secure objectives, hold certain points in the battlefield, and it's easier to do if you've got more units than the other person.
So it's not just about putting the coolest looking units on there. You've got to put some thought into it, I guess.
Yeah, very much. I mean, I've had a look at all the lists you guys have done, and I see certain similarities, shall I say, of new people coming into the hobby that I used to teach at Games Workshop, because and there's nothing wrong with it, especially now, because like I say, you've got all the various different types of detachments that you can put them into. You don't have to have troops at all. So I think there's at least one that who's gone very elite heavy. I think that's Tom's.
That's me.
Yeah. You've gone down the elite road. Your list will be horrendous because it will kick so much ass, but you don't have the numbers. Any kind of war of attrition it's not going to be good in your favor.
No, I think you're right. I did think that at one point, but what I predominantly built, I think, this list around was the fact that when we all meet, we're literally just going to kill each other. I think, because we don't know enough. We don't know enough how to do anything else. So I thought I'm just going to go for power, basically. See if I can get in close. I've got a couple of obviously heavy supports just in case I come up against machinery. But predominantly, I just want to get out there, get into close range, and try and kill. But I think I'll definitely do what you say if we start learning how to do objectives and stuff like that. I think I'll put a few more troops in there and that. But then that's how we'll learn from you, Glenn. We'll punch off all of your ideas, and then we'll be on your level, hopefully.
I think that's it. From all of the battle reports I've seen in 9, it's all about securing objectives, like when you're playing objective-based games. And so you need troops that are actually going to be able to take objectives. And I've seen it a lot with custode battle reports as well, where they've only got like, a few units because they're so expensive, but they're also incredibly powerful. But they'll crush everything in combat, but they can't keep hold of the objectives or stay in all 4 quarters of the board, so they lose out on points to like a horde army.
Especially now as well, like up until this edition, there was a 1 in 6 chance you were going to be playing you get a point for killing a unit kind of game, whereas the rest of them were all pretty much objective based games. Now, because you've got all the various Maelstrom type games and taking you can do certain actions throughout the game as well, which gives you additional victory points as well. So there's so many more ways of securing victory points now, other than just I killed a unit, I get a point. So having a very don't necessarily have to have a balanced army, but thinking about what possibly you're going to be coming up against is going to be very, very important.
Why do you think I insisted you all sent me your lists first?
For the itinerary, basically?
No, to cheat. not that I know what I'm doing, and not that I know what any of your units are, because I was just like, oh, okay, that's a thing.
Glenn, do you know anything about I know obviously I've got the Codex over there, but I haven't actually read it properly. To be honest, the Blood Angels, sort of like the traits they have and things like that, just off the top of your head. Because there's one, hold on, what is it called? Speed of the Primarch, which I put in there just in case we played objectives. And I thought maybe that would help them get to the points quickly, because obviously all my troops are quite heavy. But 2 of my leaders have both got that.
So where is that in the dex? Is that a stratagem, or is that
They're traits?
I don't know. I haven't seen the Blood Angels Codex in quite a while. Not probably this edition's worth of stuff. So I'm not 100% up on that, to be completely honest.
I know a lot of any of the battle reports that I've watched where they've played Blood Angels lists, which is a few now because it's a fairly popular chapter. A lot of the stratagems and traits that the people use, and I have heard of that one before, is to try and get like 1-turn charges off. So you want it's all about, well, what I've seen anyway is advancing and charging, or trying to, in 1 turn, so that you can get into combat immediately.
Right.
I don't know if that is the speed of the Primarch one, but I know there's ones for like the assault troops that will try and get them in 1 turn, as long as you can roll the numbers. That's always part of the problem.
I'll have to go through it properly. Problem is, I've got all 3 of them to go for. I've got the core book sitting over there, which is like massive, as you were saying, Shane. Took you a long time to get through. Then I've got the Space Marine one as well, which I need to go through, and then obviously on top of that, the Blood Angels one as well. So I will get through them eventually, but yeah.
I think for the army codexes, like for the individual factions, I think you've got, as I said, with most of these books, they're 50% lore and then 50%, maybe even less. Maybe it's 60% lore and 40% actual rules and bits and pieces you're going to know in data sheets and stuff like that. I would say, when we all get together eventually and are able to sit around a board and play, we're all going to have copies in front of us, and we're going to be flicking through and looking at what they actually are. It's going to take a couple of battles before you get an idea of what your ideal 1,000-point list might actually look like. And you're also going to want to try out all of the different ones as well. Like, one game you're going to try this stratagem, another game you're going to try a different trait for your warlords. I think it's about just playing and seeing what ones work best for what army you want to run.
Yeah, definitely, man.
So I don't, as I said, I don't think it's a case of needing to know like the codex off by heart. It's more about playing through it while you've got it.
Yeah, I suppose especially for our level, it's going to be knowing just how a basic list works. So knowing that you need, obviously, you need to assign your warlord, and like you have to have a certain amount of whatever troops, and to whatever detachment you pick. Like somebody with some knowledge could easily jump in and save me from rambling now.
I
But
think we'll just let you continue, mate. It's quite entertaining for me.
But yeah, so and this is my point. Like, I've relied on copying you guys or looking at the sort of the apps and trying to work it together. But I still haven't read through the core rules or the codex, but just trying to figure out exactly what makes up a list and then add all the little stratagems and warlord traits and bits and pieces around it as you go to try and give your actual units that extra gusto to actually kill stuff.
I mean, I think that's why we sort of settled on 1,000 points, right? It's enough for you to think about what you actually have to put in your list. Because you could have gone for like the starter kit 500, right? Like I think it's the No Fear box set from 8th edition, which is Death Guard and Ultramarines. Comes with 2 500 points armies out the box that you could just play with. Like you wouldn't have to know anything about stratagems or command points or anything like that, and that will give you a go. But then you don't have to think about anything. Whereas I think with 1,000 points, it gives us that opportunity to try and pull together a list that might have some strengths and weaknesses and show up when we do all eventually get to play together again.
Yeah. Cool.
Plus the 1,000 points. The 1,000 points, it gives you a little bit more space as well to take some of the bigger, more interesting things. Like if you're going to be thinking about taking a reasonable strength character, you might think 500 points. Yeah, I'm not going to be chucking like 200 points, 250 points into one character because that's going to leave it very, very thin on the ground for the rest of the stuff. Plus, with it being up to 1,000 points, you've got an extra few command points to work with as well, which then comes into the stratagem side of stuff. Some people like to spend the points on stratagems before. You like to have them sort of lined up in your head, what you're going to do throughout the battle, or like myself, I tend to look at my command points, think I might spend 1 or 2 to start with, maybe giving my, make my HQ a little bit better or a fancy relic or something like that. But I tend to leave a lot of my points back for things like reroll my dice whenever it's like particularly critical, or now that Overwatch is a stratagem as well. It's not just a free-for-all. Everyone can do it at all times. So you've got to be a lot more thoughtful with how you spend those command points, because command points are almost as important a part of your army now as any other unit in it, because it can massively affect the game as much as anything else.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I've noticed from watching a lot of the sort of battle reports, is that people who retain their command points till later in the game have an advantage of those who have just used them all up. Yeah. And it can be really sort of critical to change in how it actually plays out when you do, like you say, about a dice reroll or something like that, and just keeping something in the game at the critical time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's definitely something that you need to learn it. I mean, I don't know. Command point, victory points, it's all a bit sort of gobbledygook at the moment until you start playing the games. But I think from my experience so far on watching, then I think it's really important to keep some saved up rather than just spending them all straight away.
So what are they actually used for, command points? I know how to use them in our list, like on the app and everything. I've put in what I need. Obviously, I've got 3 on my detachment and then 1 on the hero of the chapter. I've got 2 left over. So what? Obviously, I couldn't spend them. There was nothing left to spend them on my list. So what do I use them for? You say re-rolling dice. I didn't know that.
During the game. Sorry, Glenn, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to say pretty much what you were going to say there. There's a core list that everyone has access to. I think there's about 6, maybe 8 in the rulebook itself. One is a command point that you re-roll a single dice. Very simple. One will be a unit can fire Overwatch. Possibly automatically pass a morale test. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. But then you've also got the army-specific ones in your codex. You've probably got about 3 or 4 pages of them towards the back of your codex.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a bit further forward. I've not seen the new edition codexes in a while. But a lot of them are situational. You play them in the game, they affect specific units or a unit of your choice, but it will be quite a situational thing. So you can keep the unspent command points back to then sort of pull this strategic mastermind move at some critical point in the game. That's basically what your command points are. It is your army's ability to pull off these strategic things rather than just free points to have a fancy sword or things like that.
But that's really good to know, to be honest, because I was sitting there looking at the app for ages thinking, how the fuck can I spend these 2 extra points?
No, keep them.
I didn't realise that they were so important to actually keep. So I'm glad I've got 2
They
left.
have one of the, because I noticed you mentioned that, Greg. They've tweaked the reroll one as well. So rather than it being a single dice now, it's a single dice roll. So
that's the bet. So if it's a 2 dice roll,
you got to roll
both dice. Yeah. So you can't just re-roll that. You've rolled a 6 and a 1. Oh, re-roll that 1. No, you got to re-roll all of them. Yeah,
got to do both. And they are quite interesting because I think it made the point that they can totally change what's happened in the battle. I was watching a battle report earlier, and there's one for the Orcs. I think it's called the Green Tide. And basically, as long as you've got like a couple of Orcs left in a unit, you can bring on that unit again as an additional unit to represent like the Orcs just smashing by. And this guy just brought back on like a 25 unit of Orc boys that the Marine player had wiped out, and he's just like, oh my god, they're back. And that's a lot of free points as well to just suddenly turn back up on the table.
And demoralizing as well. Can you imagine that, taking out a whole group and they're just back again?
Yeah.
You get a lot of similar ones throughout various armies, because I think there's one that's very, very similar to do with Chaos Cultists and the Chaos decks as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Tyranid one for some of the littler Griblies too. So yeah, you will read quite a few strategies and think, okay, this page is sort of your generic ones, then you've got your very army specific ones. A lot of them will be quite similar, but then a lot of them will be very specific. Like some of the Marine ones only apply to a unit of Predators or a unit of this or a unit of that. It's not a universal pick a unit. But then again, you do get quite a few that is just a unit of your choosing gets this benefit or this to their detriment.
Have you heard anything more, Dave, about if they're going to have a Templars Codex, or when it's going to be? Rather, nothing. No. Really thought they'd do it for them this time. I think they're definitely worthy.
We'll see. Well, you'd hope so, but they're very popular. But that's the thing. If they're just keeping it, where do you stop? If you do Templars,
I was going to say,
what other successful ones are you going to do?
How far have they actually gone? Is there a Salamanders Codex yet?
I remember before they announced the new, when they announced 9th, I remember seeing a list, and they said we're going to give new codexes to all the main factions, and then they listed off a load of legions. I know that obviously like Blood Angels are a main faction, but I'm pretty sure that Salamanders is on there. I'm sure I saw Black Templars, but that was like before we'd even bought too many models at the time.
I know GW tend to be really reticent to do new Marine chapters.
I think they were part of whenever they brought out all the supplements, so they've done either a full codex or a supplement codex for all of the first founding chapters or legions for the Marines. And I think the Templars may have had a subsection in the Fists.
Okay.
Because I know there's specific rules for the Crimson Fists, and they were in the Imperial Fists one. I'm not sure if they've done a standalone Templars one, because they're different enough to justify it, or if they were in that one, because I know there was definitely the Salamanders, a White Scars, a Fists and Ultramarines, and a Raven Guard one. And then obviously Bloods, Dark Angels and whatnot get their own because they are big enough standalone codexes.
So in theory, then it's pretty much the same as what I do. Like for Dave, he could just say, "Oh, I'm Black Templars, but I'm using an Imperial Fist Codex, and that's who I'm playing as," sort of thing for the game. Or because obviously I use Sanguine Reapers, but I play as the Blood Angels, sort of. So it's similar to that, or Look
You
on your
could
face.
do.
No.
You could do. It's just the Black Templars they're a crusading, very
Different.
zealot-like.
Yeah.
I would be more inclined to use a completely different one over a Fists decks. I'd be more thinking of running them maybe as Dark Angels, maybe a Blood Angels, but sort of limiting yourself to not taking certain things because they just go, right, I'm going to use this Codex and not take Librarians because historically Black Templars, they can't take Librarians. They hate Librarians. So yeah, they're too different to use their parents' Codex, in my opinion. There's nothing to stop you. You know, if you want to slap down some stuff and take a Black Templars Librarian, you can.
Yeah.
But
No, that makes sense what you're saying though, Glenn. I mean, like I say,
Yeah.
I know Dave wants to be quite. You want to be quite like specific to how they actually fight, don't you, in the lore and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's the point in choosing a chapter if you're not going to play like that chapter?
Yeah,
So-
are you taking Crusader squads?
I will eventually
Good.
When
That's all that matters then.
when I work out sort of how they work, but I'm still at the stage where I'm not quite sure. So
Just slap some scouts in the tactical squad and you're sweet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is it that straightforward or is it
Pretty much, yeah.
okay?
Hey, last time I looked at the Black Templars decks, yes, it was. Or neophytes and initiates or whatever they're called now. But yeah, you can either go combat-y, your scouts, and then have the Marines to soak up the damage on the way in, and then you've got some bolter and butter knife action when you get in close, or just take some extra cheap bolt guns on scouts and rely on the Space Marines armor to keep them safe. There's loads of different ways to use them, or just the fact that you've got a big blob of 15 Marines, ballistic skill wise and toughness wise, with bolt guns is quite a tough thing to shift, especially with the Templars.
And I think again, it's just about learning on what works for you and what works with different armies as well. Because I think that in the back of my head, I'm always thinking that Marine armies are going to be, especially Primaris, they're going to be tough to shift, and same with Death Guard because they're just going to be like their toughness and the resilience and stuff on that. So obviously on my list, and we're going to a bit into my list in a bit, but it's quite attack heavy and like close attack heavy. But I was very concerned about not having the firepower, like Tom said earlier. So it's quite hard. I found it very hard to actually balance what I wanted. I think we'll work it out in time and play in and what actually works well for Black Templars and the way I want to play as well. But because I want to enjoy it, it's not just all about what works necessarily. I want it to actually be an enjoyable game. But
I was going to say, I think we're not building tournament lists, right? We're building ultimately. I think we're looking at building narrative lists. It's all about the story, the lore, and how the units go together. You want the rule of cool. If it's a cool unit, it's got massive swords and it's going to run in and chop someone up. That's fine. That's
it's fun. It's fun, isn't it? We're just going for fun. Yeah,
exactly.
So, we're not building a list to win tournaments at this point.
Yet.
No, yeah, no.
It does depend a lot on what your sort of baseline play style is going to be like. Like some people do find it really satisfying to sit with a gun line and just pound the shit out of the opponent from across the table and never even consider close combat. Others prefer to run across the battlefield, get stuck in, and it's about striking that balance correctly with your unit choices plus the way you're naturally going to play the game. I will try and play to the strengths of an army, which is a bit more difficult to do sometimes, but with a Marine army, you can generally pick and choose your units. So you've always got the right kind of choices. If you fancy a close combat army, you can go with loads of assault Marines, loads of, things that are going to get up in people's faces and smash the granny out of them quite quickly. Or you can go and go with more of a gun line. You can get that balance really, really easily with the Marine army. It's about, if you're not playing basic Marines, making sure you pick the right army for your playstyle. Because there's no point in picking a TIE army and thinking, yeah, I'm going to kick ass in combat. You're not. You're really not. You're going to get whacked off the battlefield. But, you know, very few things will outshoot a TIE army. They're a nightmare.
We haven't, to quote, we haven't had a moan about the fucking
Battle
Battle app.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, before we got into the next bit, who's enjoying the Battle app?
Well,
No.
I was going to ask, like, how, like, I talked about it at the beginning with lists, right? When I was like younger, it was just pen and paper in the back of the Codex, right? You didn't really have too much guidance other than what was written there. And then I think Glenn, you've used it, and I used it when we were still in 8th, and I was doing some research on this, and I used Battle Scribe as well, which I think is pretty good, and I would recommend everyone to give Battle Scribe a go. You've got to like download the right repositories and stuff like that, but it's got so much in it. I found it really good, and then Warhammer brought out Battleforge, and I was like, oh well, if it's in the official app and you've got all the data sheets on your phone and stuff like that, we'll give it a go. But it's just so glitchy. Like,
the
number of lists I've lost is upsetting. Whereas I've still got the original ones that I set up in Battlescribe where I was just mucking around with it. So I will always default to Battlescribe if I want to keep the list around for a while. But that's just, I don't know, Glenn. What's your experience?
Yeah, I've had Battlescribe lists on my phone, in fact, previous generations of phone that I've gone over from years back. I've tried the app. My God, I was looking forward to it when it came out. I love Games Workshop. I will try and give them credit whenever I can, but sweet Jesus, it is terrible. I mean, yeah, I can look at the data sheet. Brilliant. I want to use it as an army builder. I can't even put a squad of guardsmen in my army, add in one special weapon, and then the unit goes, nope, you got too many guns. Well, let me take out one. I can see where it should let me take out one, but that doesn't work. I've even emailed them to say, when's this going to be sorted? When is this going to be a usable thing? And their response was, well, it is usable. It's like, no, it's not. I can't use an army builder that won't let me put a goddamn unit together. The most simple unit of guardsmen, that is about the most core unit in the entire goddamn game, and I can't even do that. And apparently it's usable.
I had the same problem before. Bought the Codex, the new Death Guard Codex. I downloaded it and it was working fine. Like, I was building a list, putting Plague Marines in, no problem. And then I was like, oh, cool, I've got the Codex, I've got my little special code, put it in. Initially, it worked for about the first time, it worked fine, till I went to log back into it, and it had completely kicked me out. And it took me, I had to reset passwords, got back into it eventually. And now, like you say, I can build a list fine until I want to put Plague Marines in, because obviously I don't want 8 Marines with combi bolters. I want to use the special weapons that I've painted and glued on. But for example, Great Plague Cleaver is a 2-handed weapon. So it should just be the only weapon that guy takes, but he's got to have a bolter with him. And then and it's the same for like the rest of them as well. And then it's like, oh, you can't use these guys because you've got too many bolters assigned. And it's like, well, I can't take them out. There's literally, I can't deselect it. So it's really irritating because it's the only thing so far that I found. And then all of like the stratagems and bits of information that should be on the app are just not there. It's really ridiculous.
The two lists that I've built, both the Space Wolves and the Necron one, I can't go back in now and rebuild those lists because it breaks. So even though I've built it once and downloaded them, I can't go in and rebuild those lists because something has gone wrong or something else has glitched and it won't let me do them.
It's a shame, really, though, because it's actually quite a good app, isn't it? I mean, if all of that wasn't a problem, the way it's actually set up, the benefits it would give you, just to, like you say, if you're having a battle or whatever, you just go on your phone instead of carrying around books with you everywhere. Like, it would be really good, and everyone would use it. And when it's going right, I really like it. I really enjoy using it. But just them glitches, it's just too much, isn't it?
I mean, like Glenn, I really want it to work. I really want it to be a good app. It's just, it's not. It's demoralizing when it doesn't work.
and we're paying for it as well.
I know.
And it's not just
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
the
just one
problem.
off. It's a monthly, like however much it is a month, and
£4.
it isn't doing its job. I mean,
Mm.
when we're finally able to play together, like you say, we should all just be able to revert to our phones and look stuff up and not have to carry the books and the core rules around. And at the minute, like I've had to, for the sake of this, I had to copy what I could from my list onto a Word document, delete the extra bolters, and then go through the Codex and type up stuff. So it was just for the sake of what should have been a half-hour thing. It took me ages, and you just get frustrated because you're like, I'll go back to it in a bit, and then your list isn't there.
Yeah, that's the thing that wound me up the most. Because obviously, when we were talking about building lists, and I basically said, I'm going to do a first build one with the stuff that I've already got and painted and built. I'm going to do Primaris one with stuff that I will want to do and lists I want to run in the future. And I sent you, 3-4 lists, John?
Yeah.
And they're all gone. They just disappeared, gone. Like, spent 20 minutes, half an hour on each, working out what I wanted, and then that's it, gone, and never to be retrieved. And funnily enough, after Glenn sent his one from Battle Scrub the other day, I went on and had a look at it, and I don't think I'll go back to Battleforge.
Really?
Because even when, unless they get everything sorted, I don't think there's any comparison. Because Battle Scrub, I think, was just much better laid out. It made sense, and it was clear, and it works. So
I'm gonna have to look into it. But the thing is they must be getting the feedback. Obviously, then, like you say, you've emailed. They must be getting the feedback because they keep putting out all these updates of we fixed this bug and that bug, but they're making more bugs. Every fix is making more issues.
What was it you were saying, John? Was it when the lists seem to disappear? Is it when it goes through an update every time?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, when it's an update, they say make sure you've got your lists saved, because between I don't know why, but an update just seems to wipe out everybody else's good time. But you'd think if they're going to start losing people pretty soon.
But I think that's the problem, isn't it? When you've got a company that big who's got that much money, and I'm not saying they're not putting the effort in, but a smaller company or somebody who's doing it for the fun of it will put the effort in. But whereas they're just thinking, oh, it doesn't really matter to us much. We're getting money out of it. People are just going to use us anyway. We're not really too bothered. I mean, normally I wouldn't say that because I like Glenn, I like Games Workshop and all that. But just the evidence there of Glenn saying, something wrong with it. When's it going to be sorted? I'm paying for this, and they're just sort of saying, well, it's working. Sort of like fuck off, basically. That's not really acceptable. I don't think, especially when Glenn's an ex-member of staff. He's spent God knows how much money on it, and then they're not even going to just even humour him, sort of thing, pat him on the back and say, look, we're sorting it out or whatever. But it's not very good, is it? It doesn't bode well.
Did you put that in your email, Glenn? I'm an ex-member of staff.
No, I didn't know.
I'm the blue water painting champion.
The blue water champion. Yeah.
Listen to me.
It was one of the things I was really surprised about, because usually Games Workshop's customer service and response to people is it is shit hot. They are really, really good whenever someone's got a complaint or an issue. And maybe just the guys that are in charge of getting the grief from the app have just had enough, and they just can't be arsed anymore. Because you phone up Games Workshop or you send them an email about, oh, this part's missing or this bit of spray was damaged. Most of the time, they'll just go, all right, fair enough. Here's a new box. Do you want the old stuff back? That's all right. And especially with Forge World stuff, they're phenomenally good for replacing damaged product. But this was just, it's all right. It's working. No. Awful.
Yeah. Well, you're not wrong, because I bought some spray paint and the lid come through completely cracked into pieces, and I emailed them, and then they gave me a refund I've still got the can, but they gave me a refund. So one side of it, they're very good with customer service, but they just can't build an app. Not that I know how to do it either, but I am a consumer, an unhappy consumer.
I think that's why it is, isn't it? Like you say, it's just that one particular branch of them, like the app side of things, where they just seem to have not given a fuck. But the rest of it is, like you say, exceptional. I've never had any issues with them other than that.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So now we've put everyone in a good mood. Shall we get onto the lists?
Yeah. Come on, let's do it.
Right, Shane, you've got 2, so you can go first. I think. Get one of yours out of the way.
I will go through the one that is closest to actually being painted, which is the Necron list. Which is, you know, I'm looking at the list now, but it was a dead easy one, really, for me to set up because it is effectively all of the Necrons out the Indominus box. So, pre-built army, good to go. I just needed to paint them and play around with the list itself, but it's fairly easy. I've given it, you know, a typical pun-based name in death metal because it felt like it was an easy thing to do. And I went for patrol detachment. So just a standard patrol detachment. But I think actually, did I have to put in 2 detachments? I might.
Yeah,
Yeah, you did.
But that's because you have to have a minimum number of troop choices, and the Indominus box set you only get 20 Necron warriors, which only counts as 2 troop choices. So I had to split it across 2 detachments, I believe. So I had the patrol, and that had the Plasmancer and the Scorpec Lord as the HQs. Neither of which are the Warlord, with 10 Necron Warriors, and then in Elite, the Scorpec Destroyers, the Crypto Thralls, and I think that was it in that detachment. And then I added another patrol detachment because you can have, I think you can get away with just having 1 troop choice. And in that, I've got the Overlord, the Royal Warden, another 12 Necron Warriors. So I've got another couple of extra models. The Canoptech Plasmacite and Reanimator, and then 6 Scarab Swarms as the fast attack. So what was interesting, I found with having to put this together is I thought, you know, coming straight out of the box, they'd make it easy and it would just be you'd be able to do 1 detachment. But because they only give you so many troops, I had to break it into 2 detachments to get the list to work. So let's see. I spent 1 CP on rarefied nobility as the stratagem, which I think is a buff. So I think it's like a 6-inch buff, but I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. But it's around the Warlord. Total command points 5 out of 18, with 9 points left over. I couldn't find a way to spend those last 9 points. But yeah, I've had a go with the army when I first got the Indominus box set, and there's bits and pieces to it that are quite good, and there's bits and pieces to it that are fairly weak. Like the Scarab Swarms are good at like racing up the field, and the Scorpec Destroyers and the Scorpec Lord are really good in close combat. Like they're brutal, but everything else is a bit fragile. Like it's a bit like a glass hammer. You know, it will do the job if it gets lucky, but might struggle. And I know you've got like reanimation protocols with the Necron, but that's only so good. So I think this list might struggle a little bit, unless you can get the Scorpex up quick. And because it's all based around the Plasmancer and the Reanimator, you almost need to make sure that they're moving up along with the squads of the warriors at the same time to get the best out of it, to get them into range. So I think it'll be an interesting list, and I think getting it to win will be about balancing those 2 sides of getting the Necron warriors up with the buffs that all of the HQs provide, and then getting the Scorpex into combat as quickly as possible. But that's where I settled on the next one.
Shane, what about your sub-factions? How do you pronounce that again? Is it Nephric?
Nephric, yeah.
Nephric. So how many different sub-factions have you got for the Necrons? Because obviously with mine, it's just Blood Angels and that's it. So do you have different like sub-factions you could use that give different benefits? Or
yeah, so there's about I think there's about 6 of them for the Necrons, but they're a bit like the Death Guard ones that John has access to. So they're like sub-factions within factions, as it were.
Right, yeah, I see.
And they all give different things. I think the Nephric one, if I remember correctly, gives a buff to toughness.
These like the dynasties? Or...
That's it, yeah. Dynasties, yeah. So the reason I gave them that one was because I just felt that it was if I'm going to be trying to get the Scorpex up the field as quickly as possible, I'm going to want to try and make them as tough as possible while they're doing it. So that was the plan anyway. But you never know what's going to happen until you actually run them out.
That's pretty cool though, isn't it? That you've got like a lot of different things to choose from just for one specific army, because it does give you a lot of variation if you decided you prefer playing Necrons in the future.
Yeah, I think because I was looking at that as to because it's about as I said 1,000 points to get in the box, so it's an easy second army to start with. The thing that I find when I was looking through them, because I was like, okay, maybe I will buy a few more of these so that I've got 2,000 points of like Space Wolves and 2,000 points of Necron. And I think the issue is they don't have many troops outside of just the standard Necron warriors. They've effectively got the Necron warriors, and they've got another squad called the Immortals, but they're not that much different, and there isn't that much variation in them. And so I think it's a little bit disappointing, because the other models are really they're quite cool, but it's just if you're going to have the core of your list built around troops, and as Glenn was saying, you do need troops to go and take objectives and stuff like that. The fact that they've only got really the Necron warriors, or a slightly tougher version of Necron warriors, it's a little bit boring. Like if you look at Marines, you've got all sorts of different variations you can put together, or even like the Death Guard, you've got your Chaos Marines, but then you've got your Pox Walkers, you've got various other bits and pieces that I think you can add in there as well. Whereas with the Necrons, it's not particularly deep. They haven't got much in terms of model variation, so I don't know. I've yet to make up my mind what I'd buy next. Maybe some of the Satan, like some of the big models you can get, might be worth a go. But
that would be a challenge. I've seen some of them; they're massive, aren't they?
Painting them, I don't know how that would work, but yeah, like there's maybe I'd give one of those a go, because they might.
What is that? Do you remember the name? If you got the Silent King, I'm not sure if that's one of them, isn't it? Is that the one with the
Silent King's the main Necron dude? The others are like you've got the great, like the Shard of the Great Deceiver, which is one of them. You've got the Shard of the Void Dragon, which is the one that's got like, it's like almost like digital pixelated.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That form into it, and they're all. You go back into the lore of Necron lore. Basically, the Satan were the godlike beings that gave turned the Necrons into what they are now, by effectively, tricking them into giving up their souls, but giving them like, eternal life, but in the form of these mindless like automatons. And then the Necrons, turned on them. It's the Silent King sort of turned on them and broke the Satans, because the Satans were such beings of power. They couldn't destroy them; they could only break them apart. And then they broke them and captured them into these shards. And then when you get into battle, if they happen to have one of these shards, they'll just let this godlike being out, and he'll charge across the field, causing all sorts of bother. But they're big models, and they're pretty detailed. So I don't know whether I'd give them a go just yet.
It's pretty cool, man. It's quite a good backstory though they've got there, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
I know that obviously, I think a few of them. Is it the dynasty leaders? They've still got their minds, so to speak.
That's it.
Their individuality. But the rest of them have pretty much got nothing. Almost like a rubric marine, is it for the
Rubrici? Yeah,
the Rubrici.
Yeah, I mean that's not far off, really. It's like all of the individual Necrons are, as I said, they're either entirely, devoid of personality, or they're, some of them are like going mad, where I don't know, they're getting rusty, whatever it is, but their mental cores are deteriorating.
Sounds like Gravesend Town Centre, mate.
That's yeah. I'm not wishing for that to come back anytime soon, but yeah, that's it. So it's a good list, but it was a bit. Yeah, it was. As I said, it was easy enough to put together the 1,000 points. I don't know where I'd go next though, because I think that's the other thing with the Necron is they do seem to lean more towards like being more of a gunline army, so having more of the more ranged weaponry. But when I tested them out very briefly, the Scorpex Lords of the Scorpex, they're just so good in close combat that's almost what I'd want to build them around. So it's working out how I could do that, and maybe the Satan is the way to do that because they're quite OP. So maybe that's the way to go. But yeah, anyway, that's my list. As I said, I'm not sure how it'd go. I think there's weaknesses to it. There's some bits that'll be good. There'll be bits that'll be quite cool when they get into combat, but I think there's bits that'll be, can be easily exploited.
Who do you? I don't know enough to weigh in, but out of the rest of us, who do you think you stand a better chance at from looking at our lists?
Well, I mean that is a tough one. I reckon it would be between. I reckon that the army would go best against either Tommy or Glenn, mainly because I don't think on my one I'd have enough firepower to take out the Death Guard because of their toughness and their resilience. I don't think there's enough to cut through them because with that -1 toughness for disgustingly resilient now, it's just unless you've got high AP weaponry, it's always going to be tough to take you down with shooting. I think Marines with 3-up saves are always going to be tough to get through. I think obviously Astra Militarum or the Imperial Guard a bit less on the armor save, and I think Tommy's list would be really, really tough. But I reckon if I could stay out of combat, I'd be okay. But that's the key part, is it's staying away from Tommy's list. So that's what I reckon on the Necron anyway.
Cool. Tom, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Let me just get my list up. Right. So obviously mine are called the Sanguine Reapers. I've gone with Vanguard Detachment, as Glenn said earlier. So pretty much with mine, I'm not going to lie, I've pretty much just gone for what I like the look of, and this, but also the style in which I would want them to fight. So like when I've read books in the past, and I know Blood Angels are just psychopaths when they get into their rage and then close combat and all that. So I just thought I'll put the biggest models I've got on there that can do the most damage up close. So that's pretty much was my thinking. So yeah, Vanguard Detachment. So obviously I spent 3 CP on that. Then started with my HQ. So I've got that's the guy I was talking about, my kit bashed captain now, who's 140 points because he's got a jump pack, thunder hammer, and storm shield.
Nice.
Yeah, so actually I'm quite looking forward to using him. What did I put with him? I also put Hero of the Chapter on him, mostly because it sounds cool. I've got no fucking idea what it's going to do for him. But I thought Hero of the Chapter, I'll whack him in there. That's going to make people scared, isn't it? So alongside him, I've got Mephiston, just because he's probably my coolest model. He's not my best painted, but he looks really cool. And obviously, I need a Psyker in my army. That would definitely help me out. So I've got him in now, and then I move on to my elites, which is pretty much the bulk of what I've got. So it's my aggressor squad. They've all got flame gauntlets, so they wasn't actually that expensive because they haven't got the rockets on their back like Dave's ones have. So I think it was only 120. What was it? 100? Yeah, 120 points for all 3. So it's not too bad. Then moving on to my Blade Guard veteran squad, I put an extra 1 in there, so it's there's 4 of them. Obviously, you've got a sergeant. He's got a Neo Volkite bolt gun type thing, which again I'm not really sure what it does particularly, but obviously I'm assuming it's going to be better than the heavy bolt gun because it is. You have to spend more points on it. So
it's a higher armor penetration and not toughness, but yeah, it's just a better. As you're quite right, it's just better.
Cool, and it sounds better as well. Neo Volkite. I mean, it could mean anything really, to be honest, but it sounds cool. So yeah, I've got 4 of my Blade Guard veterans, and then I've had to go with my Terminator squad. And the good thing about this Terminator squad is they wouldn't be able to beat Dave's, for example, up close and personal because he's got thunder, hammers, and shields. But it brings the points down enough for me to have had a couple of extra units that I wouldn't have had otherwise, having the lightning claws. So for them, it's only, 165 points instead of 210 with the lightning claws. So I saved quite a few points there. And then I thought, obviously, I had to have. It was a toss up, the next one really, between going heavy support or fast attack. I haven't got enough fast attack at the moment. Though. I've only got my Death Company, and they're not painted either, like completely only been primed so far. So I left them out and I just went with heavy support. So I put an Eradicator squad in there, which are brand new, and I really like the look of them. They look pretty cool. And also a Vindicator tank, which is the only tank I've got that's painted. So I've no idea what that does, apart from the fact that it's got a massive cannon on the front and it's got a Stormbolter on the top. But also I spent extra points on a Hunter Killer missile, because that sounds like it's going to do some damage. And if I'm going to be going up against you guys, you're most probably going to have at least some armor somewhere that I'm going to have to try and take out. And yeah, so that was it pretty much. Obviously, I put my psychic powers on Mephiston. Again, I don't really know too much of what they do, but Blood Boil, Unleash Rage, and Wings of Sanguinius. I'm assuming Wings of Sanguinius helps him travel further or faster to certain places. And again, within mind thinking I need to get into close combat with my units, or maybe that will help. But I'm sure I'll be told by people that I'm completely wrong, and it's got nothing to do with that. But yeah, that's what I went for in the end. So I've still got a couple of CP left to use if I need to re-roll dice, which I'm assuming I will do when I'm against you guys.
Here's a novel idea for whenever you're given psychic powers. And
well, as long as it's novel, Glenn, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Read your fucking Codex.
What? Yeah. But
you can't even argue
the Codex, what they do.
Hey, Tom, don't worry. I haven't read my Codex either. I just went for the models on my shelf.
Yeah, but that's why when people watch this back, they realise we don't know what we're talking about.
I think we've been pretty open and honest with that from the start.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just went for what sounded cool in the end of the day, and like I said, with the psychic powers and all that stuff, I could have really just put random sort of thing, just so it's on there, and then I'll learn what I'm doing on the day when we play. Like you said, that's how we're going to learn anyway. So
yeah, man.
Yeah, if you haven't played with the things, like it is going to be a couple of games of, okay, I'll take this power, and this power, or I'll run this stratagem. You know, it just, like I say, it comes down to your style of play as well. If you're going to be, you know, charging forward, I think Wings of Sanguinius, if it's the same as it used to be, basically give them like a jump pack move. So
cool.
Leap forward. You used to be able to take that on a Librarian Dreadnought as well, which was hilarious, because you used to have essentially Furiosa Dreadnoughts leaping about as if they got a jump pack on. But now, because you can only use the same power, I believe, once a turn. So you can't have multiple things going, yep, Wings of Sanguinius on that Dreadnought's going over there, yep, he's going over there. You know, so you got to balance out where you're going to be, because you're only going to be having maybe 5 or 6 powers, and to try and take all of them once you get to the bigger games. You got to really think about who's using what powers. But yeah, I can't really see any fault with that.
By the sound of it, then that probably is a good thing for me to have, isn't it? If I haven't got too many troops to move around, if I need to get somewhere quick, I'm assuming that'd help.
The only thing
that's a no. That's a no.
No. That's fine. I look at that list, and to me, it doesn't scream Blood Angels to me. If it wasn't Mephiston, I would look at that list and go, ooh, Fists, Imperial Fists, maybe, because it's.
Well, to be fair, they're quite assault driven, and I think that's what the Blood Angels pretty much are, aren't they? So, I think that was my thinking anyway. But
yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just Blood Angels tend to be a little bit more about the speed.
See, that's the problem. Like I said, I was thinking of going more with some more fast attack troops if I had them, because I was reading up on it and they were saying Dante's got a jump pack, for example, their chapter master. Do you know what I mean? So it's obviously got to be about that. But unfortunately, here's my Dante, and he's in about 5 pieces at the moment. so I couldn't put him in. But yeah, I think I will put a Dante along with the Death Company in at some point. And I also wanted to get some Outriders. I know they're not great and they're very generic looking and all that, but I think that would help me as well, especially when we're taking points. Yeah, I think you're right, mate, for the future.
Yeah, because I look at that and think, I can avoid that list.
Yeah.
Because literally everything in my army is either in or is a vehicle. So I'll just drive away, shoot you. You get a bit closer, drive back a bit further, shoot you again.
We'll see, Glenn, we'll see. No, but that's it. Yeah, pretty much for me. Like I say, I've made 3 lists or so. I deleted the other 2 because I thought we'll just go do it one at a time for me. But I have got a couple of others that I might need to play around with now. because Glenn's demoralised me. I'll be honest. no, that's good. No, I'll definitely use this list for the first time we all play when we're just attacking each other. But I think I do need to put some more fast attack troops in it. To be fair.
Is that what you think, or is that what Glenn's just told you?
Well, I think it now. No, like I said, I did consider it, but I just think at the moment I haven't really got the right troops to put in there, and I can't be bothered to paint my Death Company. They just look really finicky to paint, and they're quite small. I'm used to painting Primaris now, so
you could get Primaris Assault an assault squad though, couldn't you? Primaris Assault.
You can get them now, can't you? Death Company Primaris, can you? But are they just regular Primaris?
So like regular Primaris Assault.
Yeah,
like you just paint them up. Like that's on the Wolf list I've got. That's what I've got. I've got a squad of just standard Primaris Assault Marines.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I might have to get them then. When I get everything else painted in about 12 years.
I was only taking a piss because I haven't had a go yet, and Glenn hasn't torn my list apart.
There's time yet. Glenn's got that look on his face. I can see it already. He's like,
I have considered your list, and I do not approve.
Yeah, with his clicky pen.
Yeah. Dave, you go next. Say, I don't want to go next.
Scared.
Yeah. I don't want to get told off.
Again, I'm about to get my fucking ripped to shreds here anyway. But so I've obviously gone for Black Templars. This is my firstborn list. I've obviously got quite a few Primaris, but I thought it'd be rude not to play with what I've already got sort of ready to go. So start off with it's a Vanguard detachment. It's Captain in Terminator armor. So traits of Paragon of Fury and the Relic. The Relic is the Crusader's helm, which I literally went for that reaction exactly.
Yep.
So
well done. I shall now be giving you the Crusader's helm.
So and then I've got tactical squad, and I basically sort of bumped a couple more Marines just to literally fill out the points from everything else there. So six normal Marines with bolt guns, sergeant with plasma pistol and power fist, and a heavy flamer as well. And that was literally just to sort of use up points from my actual more elites. So I've gone for my Terminator Assault Squad, 210 points. So it's quite cost heavy really on that, point heavy. And they're all with Thunder Hammers and Storm Shields, as Tom said earlier. And then apart from, the Sergeant's got Lightning Claws. The Vanguard Veteran Squad, which are basically my Sword Brethren. I think that's the sort of, from researching online, that's what sort of fit best for running Sword Brethren. And they again just bolt pistols and chainsaws, apart from the Sergeant, again with Lightning Claws. Another elite was my Venerable Dreadnought with las cannon, twin las cannon and heavy flamer. And my rationale with that is it's got distance and can take out some armor, more toughness things, as well as having the flamer for things if it does get up close and personal. And then heavy support, I've got Predator Annihilator, 2 las cannons, Hunter Killer Missile, and Storm Bolter. And that was bang on 1,000 points using everything.
Nice.
So my rationale behind that was obviously, I've got to mention I've got my Rhino as well. Doesn't look like it. Is it in there?
No, not in this one anyway that I've got.
No.
You're just trying to take extra points and hope we don't notice.
I'm doing the John.
No.
Yeah, so that's my sort of my rationale with that, is that I have some guns capable of taking out the higher toughness things. Looking at obviously with the Death Guard there, especially, and then hopefully just get into combat as soon as possible with the Vanguard veterans and the Terminators, and hopefully I think that's how I sort of want to play with my Templars going forward, is just basically get in there and and fucks you up, hopefully, or get fucked up, one of the two. Did I mention I got? Let me have a look on my list.
Stop trying to add things, Dave. That's the end of it.
I forgot. No, I didn't. I forgot the Emperor's Champion. I forgot the Emperor's Champion. He is on the list.
He was in the back of the Rhino, wasn't he?
He was in. Yeah. So, the Emperor's Champion, and that's obviously to lead the Sword Brethren or the Vanguard Veteran. And hopefully, I think it's a relatively sort of a catch-all list. I think that I've got enough heavy support to hopefully deal with the heavier units, tanks and bits and bobs. The tactical squad to hopefully give me some sort of firepower before I actually get into combat. And then when I actually do get into combat, I think that's when the army will come into its own, and hopefully the Terminators and the Vanguard veterans can actually make a difference on the battlefield. But I'm sure Glenn's about to tell me different.
I think it looks like a really balanced army. Not that I'd know anything, but I think it looks pretty good, man, to be honest. And coming from me, I bet you feel great, didn't you?
Yeah, thanks. So we'll leave that there and we'll move swiftly on.
Tom with Tom with the Imperial Fist Blood Angel army.
Yeah. Oh, I might as well paint them yellow.
I'm in agreement, actually. It's a nice balanced list. It looks like a classic Space Marine list. It's Captain, Tactical Squad, Dreadnought, Predator. It ticks all the boxes. For me, as like an older gamer, it's not got any of the fancy new things. It's just a really nice, solid list. It's got some shooting. It's got a bit of combat. It's balanced. The only thing I would say in a negative is, again, everything's going to be walking across the table at me.
Yeah.
Apart from the Terminators, which you can always deep strike in.
Yeah. Well, that was pattern. I did think that I also added in a Rhino, but I must have run out of points. So
it, Dave. Just leave it, Dave.
Please,
yeah,
can I bring a Rhino?
And that's what I found out. Obviously, when we played that game at yours, anyway, and that's one of the things.
Is that what you called it? A game? Yeah.
Well, yeah, whatever that was. So I found out that obviously I just thought I could sort of just march across the battlefield and that would be fine, but I think that is the biggest fear with this one. With Terminators, hopefully they'll be able to weather the best of the storm, but we'll see.
Yeah, especially with the storm shields on, like they're gonna soak up any of the heavier damage.
Yeah,
but I mean, if you get them in deep strike turn 2 and you get the charge off, they're going to mess a lot of stuff up.
Yeah, I do like them. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing when we played at Tom's that time, but they seem to fare well against a lot of units there in close combat. So,
but I think it does prove one thing though. Like Glenn was saying, he fancy playing against my army because he's got the right setup to just keep basically shooting me from a distance until I'm dead. But with me and you, although you've got a more balanced team, we would literally just have to go towards each other and fight, wouldn't we? If that's what we was playing, like just who kills the most type of thing.
Yeah.
And that would actually be quite a lot more even, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, looking at, because obviously I looked at everyone else's list after doing mine and thought, oh, fuck me, I'm going to get fucked up there. But the biggest thing that obviously worries me about your list is the Eradicators.
Yeah, because I did see a lot of people online saying they were well worth having in any Space Marine army.
Yeah, so that's what I've heard. Obviously, I've not played against them, but them and then obviously Mephisto and anything that any Psychers is just going to. I mean, I know Templars have buffs against Psychers, obviously, where they abhor the witch or whatever it is. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm going to have to get my head around them and make sure I bring them, especially against things like Mephisto, where you're just going to fuck me up on the psychics, the psycho sort of things. But
before you finish, Dave, I have to ask. I mean, I know we was laughing at it and everything, but what is the Crusader's helm? I need to know.
It's just a relic. I did actually read up to it because it's on Battleforge, but it's just a relic that gives you a buff. Yeah, it's disappeared in the ether. I'll look it up and I'll find it out, but I haven't actually got it on my phone because I haven't got enough memory.
Phone memory, yeah, or
just in general.
That's it. I'm the same as you. It's just that I didn't know sort of what to pick, so I went for the thing that sounded the best, and the Crusader's helm seems That's going to bring some righteous fury down on some heretics. So.
It's perfect for a Slaneshi like you, isn't it? Really? It's just...
Yeah, exactly.
So who does that leave then? There's only one more person I can think of.
Well,
we've got
me and
me and
Glenn have
John.
to
Glenn
go.
and John.
Oh no, Glenn doesn't exist anymore. He's out of my books. What he said, I haven't forgiven him.
Well, we'll let Glenn go last, seeing as he's schooling us anyway, and then we'll just all log off while he starts talking. Okay, so I'll preempt this by saying, yes, I have no idea what I was doing. Yes, I have the Codex, and no, I didn't read it because I assumed that the Battleforge app was going to help me through this, and I mean, the amount of times I started a list and whatever. So I don't have a pre-game stratagem because it wouldn't let me add one, and I didn't bother reading the Codex to try and figure out where that goes. So there's that. But other than that, I think it went pretty well. So my legion is called Falconites Legion. It's 987 points, and it's a patrol detachment, and we are the sub-faction Inexorable. So my HQ is Typhus with his master crafted Man Reaper and his Blight Grenades. So he's 165 points. And I've given him the Warlord trait Shamble Rot, which I just like the name. And essentially that if you get close to him on your movement phase, then basically we can roll some dice and potentially that's going to give you a mortal wound. So don't get too close to him.
Not with his Man Raper.
Not with his man. Is that what you was laughing at? Jesus.
Yes. Sorry, I'm only 10 in my mind.
Well, I've also got a helm. I haven't used it this time round, but it's like, I think it's called Fugaris Helm or something. But I avoided using that because I knew that we would just get childish.
Yeah, that's childish.
Hell, John. At least when you fight Dave, we can call it the Helm Wars.
We can. What was yours? What was your helm?
We're talking about Warhammer here still.
No, penis. I'll have my Fugaris helm versus yours.
My Crusader helm.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's also got psychic powers, gift of contagion, which if you get within 18 inches has the possibility to reduce your strength, and also the gift of plagues, which will enhance a nearby friendly unit's contagion ability, obviously if the dice roll in your favor. So then my troops, I've just gone for a squad of 8 Plague Marines plus a Plague Marine champion with Power Fist, and depending whether you look at the fucking Codex or the printout, they've either all got some weapons and bolters, or what I wanted was 3 regular Plague Marines with their bolt guns, knives and grenades, 1 Flail of Corruption, 1 Plasma Gun, 1 Bubotic Axe and Mace of Contagion, 1 Blight Launcher, and 1 Great Plague Cleaver. The theory behind that being that I've got plenty of firepower and to protect, obviously, the guy with the flail, the axe, and the Great Plague Cleaver can stay at the back. And obviously, whoever survives out of my regular Marines, once they get up close, then we can unleash the more powerful weapons when we get into hand-to-hand combat. My elites, so I've got my Blight Lord Terminators. So the champion has a Bubotic Axe and Combi Plasma. And then the other 4, another Bubotic Axe and Combi Melter, 1 Combi Flamer and Bale Sword, 1 Reaper Autocannon and Bale Sword, and then the other guy has got a bigger, grander, smellier Flail of Corruption. And then accompanying them will be my Plague Surgeon, and he's got the relic Suppurating Plate.
Sounds lovely.
Yes. So it gives him a save characteristic of +2, So he's well protected, and each time an enemy unit fights, it suffers any wounds that turn if you roll a d6. So anything above, I think anything 2+ will give you a mortal wound, if I've explained that properly. So Plague Surgeon, I only finished him recently, and basically he just has the ability to put saves on any unit. So whoever he's with, potentially, he just keeps them in the game a bit longer.
He's just basically an apothecary then, or what?
Essentially, yeah. He's an apothecary.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I mean, if you read it, Death Guard don't need apothecaries, because why would you want to heal them? So really, he just creates better diseases to infect them with. But yeah, semantics. So then my fast attack would be my Photed Bloat Drone with 2 Plague Spewers, because he's obviously quick. He's got, so everything before, everybody else has a movement of 5 inches. So yeah, they're going to be crawling up. My Bloat Drone has movement of 10, and the Plague Spitters have a range of 12 inches. So not the most ranged of units, but I mean, they can give a bit of cover and get in it. They can just sort of get in and out. And then to go along with that, I've also got one Methylatic Blight Hauler. Again, he's got movement of 10, and then his multi-melter has a range of 24, and then the frag and crack missiles have a range of 48. So he's probably my most ranged unit, and hopefully between those two, maybe do some damage to any armor that are coming in. I think Glenn will probably tell me differently, but I think between everyone, I've got a decent mix of hand-to-hand combat and a decent bit of range. Not the most, Death Guard aren't the most ranged units, but at least with the firearms, that they're protecting the more hand-to-hand guys on the way in, as they shamble their way towards you for a lovely kiss.
Do the bloat drones still have the fly keyword?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do.
Because that would make them even handier.
Yeah, they do have that keyword. Yeah.
I hate them things in a good way. They are horrible to deal with.
Glenn, that's what we used at your place, isn't it? Or that's what John used at your place?
Possibly.
No, you
I
used
can't remember.
the crawler.
Oh, was that the crawler?
Yeah.
You used both. No, you used both.
Yeah, he had a flyer as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
that was
they
crazy.
They are horrible. Just buzz up the field, spit toxic crap all over the place. Like Dave and Tom's army is probably going to be, I'll charge that. It's going to be going, yep, I'll use some of my command points, get Overwatch, spray them with that again, and then once they've had a turn, it'll just go, I can fly, and just piss off. And then just, it's a horrible thing to deal with. It has to be dealt with quickly and at range. That is the one thing I look at and go, yeah, I'm shooting the shit out of that before I fire at anything else.
With something like that, Glenn, for example, I've got a psyker. So can psykers affect them from distance, or could affect machinery from distance, or damage them, or anything like that?
Unless it's specified otherwise, generally psychic powers can affect anything. If it's got a strength or a toughness or anything like that, generally you're going to be doing that. And there is no such thing as having a vehicle profile versus a normal unit profile now. So cool. It's got a strength and toughness. You can damage it. It's going to be the exact same.
Right, cool.
Do the plague spewers, they treated the same as like flamers? Do they auto hit?
Yeah. So
you would just Overwatch with them then? That's straight away. No need to roll your 6. You just auto hit and Overwatch.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
So that's 2d6 each time, and they're just disgusting.
Yeah.
And with
strength 5 or strength 6, although I think they might come down with the strength of the vehicle as you do damage to it.
But you can bracket them.
Yeah. Possibly.
Also, John, do you get disgusting and resilience with every unit in your army for Death Guard? You do, don't you?
I don't think it's as it was before. They've taken it out, and you have to. I think it's. I don't know if it's a stratagem or.
I think you can pay to add it to your
Yeah, it's not like before where it was just given. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Well, I think I don't know.
in.
I'd have to look at it. I think it's given with some units. So I think your Plague Marines and your Elites probably still have it, but your vehicles,
So-
I think you have to pay to have them.
If it says so if I'm looking at the Codex, in abilities, are
Yeah.
these, so it's got 3 here, are they abilities that it can have or abilities that it just has as standard?
It just has.
Just has.
Okay, so for the bloat drone, he's got disgustingly resilient, contagion of
So he does
Nurgle,
have it.
yeah, demonic and putrid explosion. So yeah, he is disgustingly resilient, and so is my blight hauler.
And the new rule for that is it takes 1 damage off of incoming fire, doesn't it, or incoming damage generally?
I'd be lying if I said that. I
think that's what
we'll look it up.
It's no
Good
longer
effort.
a 5-up shrug. It's no longer a 5-up shrug. It's now a -1 damage. I think for all incoming hits.
I wasn't aware of
prefer
that.
Yeah,
That's-
so
That's much easier to deal with now.
it's what they've been saying is that whereas the previous one, where it's like it was a 5-up dice roll, right? So it's a 5-up invulnerable save.
Yeah,
You weren't guaranteed it every time. Whereas now they've gotten rid of the 5-up save and they've said it's actually -1 damage, but you don't need to roll for it. It's just across everything, which is why I on the battle reports I've seen, unless you've got high AEP weaponry, death card, like against standard Marines, they take the bolter down by 1 damage or 1 AP or whatever, and it's nowhere near as good. So that disgustingly resilient. It's not broken, but it's tough.
I think the old one was worse because it was a save on top of a save,
Yeah, no, this is true.
which was there was very few things in the game you get 1 save essentially, whereas that was, and it didn't matter what it was, mortal wound, anything. It's like you've taken damage, 5-up,
Yeah.
and you'd be amazed how often goddamn 5-up saves happen. I mean, it is not 2 out of 6. It happens 50-50, I would say.
yeah.
Bloody disgusting.
And can your Terminators deep strike as well, John?
I think so, because they can be brought in by a psychic ability, I think, if I've read that correctly before. So I think you can bring them in later into the game. I don't know about deep striking. Like I said, I'll be lying if I try and tell you without reading out the Codex, but maybe.
You didn't have any Pox boys. That was the one thing I looked
So-
at. Where's his Pox boys?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it. But it was like, realistically, to get enough of them, I'd either have to lose an elite unit and a plague marine, which may be worth it just for numbers. But for a 2,000 point game, I will bring a lot. But for 1,000 points, if we're just for the sake of this, which I don't think we're putting any real strategy to it, it's just attack each other. I don't think they're going to do me too many favors. Yeah, they'll soak up a few hits for a turn, but I mean, if someone gets lucky and just wipes them out with their extra rhino, then I'm pretty fucked tonight. But my alternative would be a Mortarion for 490 points, and then the other 510 will give me like about 100 Poxwalkers.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I was about to say, what are you going to put Mortarion?
That's my backup army for when I can get a Mortarion. But yeah, Glenn, how do you rate my setup?
I would look to drop points from your Plague Marine unit to get in some Poxwalkers.
Really?
Just because for a bog standard unit of troops, granted they are Plague Marines, but that's nearly a quarter of your points on a troop's choice. It seems you've basically gone, I like that weapon, I like that, I like that, I like that, I'll have one of everything.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
Maybe drop a block and take a couple of the special weapons out and go with like some of the more standard guns, and that will be enough to get you a small squad of Poxwalkers so they can just sort of shamble along and tie up units and just be a general pain in the ass. They're not going to be game winners or game changers, but they'll just be a little irritant that someone will have to deal with, or
Sure.
Shield one of your more important units from some marauding unit of bloody Vanguard vets or Terminators or something. Then you can just have them for a turn and then position yourself to then deal with the bigger threats. That would be my. But like the rest, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of nerdly weapons in there that I kind of go, I vaguely know what that does, but I'm not 100%. So I couldn't look at them and go, that's worth taking. That's not worth taking. Yeah. I like the flip. Like a lot of the weapons, they look cool. I'm not going to lie. And like I say, for the first 1,000 points, I'm not worried too much about wins and losses. You just want to get some cool stuff on the table and roll some dice in anger. And, if you just go with the cool looking stuff, but I would, you've been banging on about these goddamn poxwalkers for so long. At least a little unit of 10 of them needs to see the battlefield.
Yeah, well, they were the last thing to come off. But then I was just thinking, for firepower's sake, because I had done the Plague Marines, where you're right. I fucking spent all this time painting these special weapons. They're coming with me, so I'll sacrifice the Poxwalkers just for the sake of this. And I knew it would get a good reaction.
Plus, can you actually take that many different weapons in a Plague Marine squad?
I think
I have no idea.
I think you can.
I'm pretty sure you can as well,
Yeah.
but it just seems like for a basic unit, almost everything can have a different weapon, and it's just like, oh Christ, there's a lot of stuff going on.
I'm pretty sure when I first did it, it allowed. This is before the app stopped working on me.
Yeah.
So it was on the app, so it didn't have an issue with this. It was only once I put my code in that it didn't. The problem it has is with more than one bloody bolter. So I don't really know. And then it was like, do I want to sit here and actually teach myself how to play, or do I want you to do it for me during the podcast?
Yeah. My only other disappointing thing is 8 models in a unit.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, John. I was
should be 7.
I was having a count. I count 9, but I don't know.
9?
Just looking at your looking at how you've written it.
Well, it's not. It's 8 Marines plus the champion.
Oh, okay. I'm with you.
So it is 9. Is that not a good thing then? I
thought not Nurgle's number.
You're Nurgle. Nurgle is 7. God damn it.
Yeah, but
so
you idiot.
Go with a nice theme.
Hang on. Yeah, but that's playing by theme, and to play by theme isn't going to help me, is it? Like if numbers, it's a numbers game, surely.
Yeah, but those 2 you'll drop out will easily get you a little squad of Poxwalkers.
I can have between 4 and 9 Plague Marines and a Plague Champion, so I can have 10. Actually, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm adding one more guy. I'm bringing the full cohort. I just thought in my mind of having like 6 guys who have got distance weapons, and then a few guys behind them with the close range. I thought that was good, but clearly I'm going to fuck myself.
There's nothing really wrong with the unit. Like it just seems like a lot of points to dump into a basic troops choice.
Yeah, I mean it is 247 points for those guys.
And like I say, I love a theme. If there's like a little thing in there that makes me go, well, let's see what you've done there. I like doing that, and like especially with the Chaos Army, like all my Zinch units will be 7s. All my Nurgle will be Nurgle will be 7s. Slanesh will be 6s. It's just the way I like to do it because it's. I think it's
because you're cool, Glenn. Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
and here's the thing, isn't it? We're going to meet and have a battle, and I'm going to lose, and you're going to say to me, if you just had 2 more Plague Marines, you might have won this, but you went for 7.
Yeah, but realistically, I could probably kill 2 Marines easier than the equivalent points worth of Poxwalkers, because there's probably going to be 10 or 12 wounds, whereas 2 Plague Marines is only 4 wounds.
How many
Yeah.
points are a basic set of Poxwalkers anyway? How much points would you have to drop from 987 to get them in?
I mean, Poxwalkers are now 5
5
points
on them,
per.
Do you have to have a certain
man.
amount of them to put them on the table, or
You could,
10,
yeah,
I
you
would
need
imagine.
10,
Yeah.
yeah. So
you
not
have
too
to?
many.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
50 points
I mean,
is nothing, really, is it?
I'd probably
Yeah.
just drop out 2 Plague Marines then and get the 10 in. Because all right. You've convinced me. We'll ditch out the Plague Cleaver and the Flail of Corruption, and there we go. Whatever's left, they're Poxwalkers now.
Yeah.
You're fucked. You're fucked, Glenn.
Because is it every 10 Poxwalkers the unit gets a buff?
If it's 11 more models,
That's it.
gets a power rating of 5. Yeah, so it gets quite a nice buff there.
Oh no, that means nothing.
That's the point stuff. It's
That's the easy way of building the list.
there is a buff they get. I can't remember what it's on though. And it's,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's once you've got units of, well, it's groups of 10.
Not 7 then, no?
No, funnily enough, no.
Oh, it's a bit disappointing.
Well, if you had 21, then 21 Poxwalkers, you'd get your tick your 7s and your buff.
Smart thinking, man. I like it.
Yeah. See, I don't know too much about like the proper lore of
Anything?
Death Guard of anything. No, well, because I'm trying to read the Heresy without spoiling it too much and looking through. I know there's a difference between 30k and 40k, and I don't want to learn too much before I get through it in the books. That's why I haven't read a lot of the Codex.
I love the fact that you won't read your Codex through fear of spoiling the Heresy. It's very good.
I know, and it doesn't make sense because I need to just do it, and it overall isn't going to affect the enjoyment. But this is why I won't watch too many lore videos or stuff, because I just want to discover it as I'm going along. I know it doesn't make sense.
So you're not going to read the Codex until you've read the Heresy, right?
No, I will read.
And then by that point, there'll be a new Codex out.
We'll be on 12th edition. I will do it. It's just saying I've got to get over it. I'll get over it because obviously, as the more podcasts we do, we're going to get into these territories where I'm going to have to do it. It's just something I've tried to put off, but yeah, I'll get over it and I'll spoil it just so I can pretend I know what's going on next week. Anyway, Glenn, your army now, surely.
Yep. All right. So I've gone.
That's all we've got time for this week. So see you next time.
Hey, that's fine. No. Right. So I've gone with a guard list based around the Cadian doctrines. So I can take Pask as my leader. So he's my warlord as well. He is riding around in a Lehman Ross Punisher with additional heavy bolters on the side, so he can trundle along and fire out 49 shots a turn. Yeah, all at strength 5. So yeah, that's going to be clearing units a turn. All at sort of ballistic skill 2 as well, so it's not like he's going to be missing an awful lot. There's also a minor HQ who's a company commander, bog standard, nothing special on him. He's basically there to issue orders to the infantry to make them a little bit better and do fancy things whenever they need to. This is a patrol detachment as well, by the way. Mm-hmm. So 2 infantry squads. I like symmetry in mind, so they've both got a single plasma gun in them, nothing else fancy. Both mounted in chimeras to increase mobility. And then for my elites, there's a veteran squad. They can take a little bit more. So they've got 2 melted guns to benefit from their better ballistic skill. They're in a chimera as well. There's a command squad in the elite section, and they've got 4 sniper rifles. There's only 4 of them. They're basically just there to sit in a building somewhere and ping off some shots at characters to try and take out any sort of scary things or buffs from range. There's then 2 armored sentinels, both with las cannons. they're not the best. I could take 3 las cannon weapons teams from less points, but I just really like the look of an armor sentinel. I think they're just cool looking, and they're a bit more mobile. And then finally, a Lehman Russ Demolisher. I've spent the extra command point to give it the Tank Ace upgrade. So it's got a 2+ armor save. And it's got a Demolisher cannon, so it is a nice strength 10, -3 armor save to you guys. So basically, if it hits something, it's pretty much going to turn it into jam. That's the list. So I like say, it's a little bit of a theme army. It's sort of similar to the old Armored Fist armies you used to get from back in the day. Everything is either in or is a vehicle. Nice and mobile, some nice special weapons. The tanks do most of the work, and with the guard army, you've also got the fact that now Lehman Russes, if they move up to half speed instead of moving full speed throughout the turn, they get to fire their turret weapons twice. So 2 Demolisher shells coming your way, or that's what Pask's kicking out 40 shots with his Punisher cannon. So that will sort of chew its way through most units, especially in smaller games.
Do any of the? Oh yeah, I was going to say, how many of the models get invulnerable saves?
None.
Oh really?
No, I think the commander.
Oh okay.
The basic commander, he will have a 5 up, I want to say.
Yeah. I think so.
Let's just check that. But he's basically there to just sit towards the back. He's never really going to be in a position to be targeted, really. He's always going to be behind a couple of infantry squads, basically giving them the orders. So giving me sort of re-rolls and benefits to things like that. And then Pask's obviously going to be trundling around with the Demolisher, giving it orders as well, because he's a tank commander. He can issue the orders to tanks, but he can't issue anything to infantry and vice versa. So
I like the way that you've got everything planned out, though. I mean, it does show that you've got the experience. Like everything's got its place, and then everything else is linking up to help the other troops out, like your tanks and that, to give the troops some mobility and everything. It will be really good for us, I think, to see you actually play the game if and when that happens. I think we'll learn a lot from that first game. So you're up first, so we can learn off you, I think, when we play.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, and I will stick a picture of it up as well, because obviously everything is built. Most stuff's got at least an undercoat on. So, but I've seen your guys' pictures of everything, and I look and go, that looks really small. That looks really small as well. It's just getting your head around a guard army, even one that's sort of heavily armored and sort of elite. You know, I'm looking at having 35 infantry and 7 vehicles on the table. You know, I think Tom's list is somewhere around 18 to 20 bottles. Dave's maybe a little bit more. John, depending if he sticks the poxwalkers in.
Yeah.
You know, and then Shane's probably in the mid to high 20s, maybe 30 odd bottles.
18 I've got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 20.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Even if we've got people that could absolutely wipe out any of your units, we're not going to be able to do it, because you'll just keep clogging places up that we need to get past and that with your infantry. Is that the way you do it, or just pound us from a distance? As great as that sounds.
The infantry are there to realistically grab the objectives and stuff like that. I structure my lists a lot more on, I'm probably going to be playing an objective-based game rather than a kill everything game. If I was just going, right, it's going to be an annihilation game, I need points for killing stuff, I would roll out the tank company, and it would be Lehman Russes and Manticores across the field. There'd be no infantry. It would be nothing but high toughness armored vehicles kicking out a lot of damage every turn. I'm not worried about objectives, but in saying that, in a guard army, you can go, oh, it's Lehman Russ. Yeah, it can capture objectives as easily as troops can. So it's got its benefits there as well.
Cool.
I was just going back to Glenn's one, was that, you know, I looked at both my lists, and everyone else's. I'm so scared of that amount of armor. I don't know how to punch through it. Like with my list, I've got no idea how I take that down. Like I could just see it just getting, even if you tie it up in, because I think vehicles can still shoot in combat, can't they?
They can now. Anything that's not a blast weapon.
Yeah.
Luckily on Pask, none of that's a blast weapon. So yeah, you can charge him all you want, but he's just going to go with his guns, and
That's what I mean. I look at it. Even tying them up in combat, it's it's going to be pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I think even Annihilator would struggle with all of that armor as well. So, yeah.
Okay, let's all stop pretending Glenn's army's so great, shall we?
Because
sure to pretend.
Yeah, realistically though, you put a Astartes army up against the Guard. I don't think the Guard are going to come off on top too many times. Realistically,
depends on the commander.
In law,
yeah, in lore, yeah.
Is it, well, obviously, I've showed my. I don't know. Is there such a law or a book or something like that where the Guard have defended against like a chaos legion at all, or at least survived?
Probably loads of them.
Yeah.
Although a lot of the time when it's Guard, I know
without
Ghost. Most of the time it's Guard versus Traitor Guard or things like that. You don't tend to get a lot of Guard on Chaos Marines because it is just a bloodbath. Because a Marine, you're supposed to be able to take over a planet with like 10 or 20 Marines.
Yeah.
Like lore-wise, especially in like the more modern day Codex lore. I think Black Library is a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know?
Glenn, on that, just while we speak about it, it's just popped into my mind. You've read Typhus Kane books, haven't you? Or some of the first few, haven't you?
Yeah.
There was one point, I think it was in the third book, where, and it sounded ridiculous to me. It didn't put me off the books. I thought it was just a bit stupid, where Kane goes up against a Chaos Marine with his chainsword. And I know he's a great swordsman and everything, but he literally made the Marine seem like he was nothing. Like almost nothing. Oh, he's slow. I'm just going to dance around him here. And I know that some of them are a bit slow when they've, they're thousands upon thousands of years old and they're all corrupted or whatever. But I don't know if you remember that part. And he literally just chopped his head off, and everyone was going, "Well, like he's a hero." And I was just thinking, really? That had just happened?
Well, like if you look at it and sort of bring it back to rules-wise, like a Marine versus a commissar or a Lord Commissar that he would sort of be, I put Kane like way above what the tabletop rules of those basic commissars would be. So yeah, I mean it's going to happen because he is held up as like this phenomenal swordsman, mostly because of the sheer pant-filling terror that he's under most of the time.
Yeah, but lore-wise, even without the tabletop, the amount they've built it up to, Space Marine is maybe 10, even more, like 10 times as strong and 10 times as fast and all that. And even Kane being one of the best swordsmen, just the way he beat him so easily, it just made me a bit like, I don't know if they've done that right. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but like anomalies happen. Plus, this is Kane's recollections, which all the little bits down in the bottom of the pages are sort of like, did this actually happen? It's. But even in real life, you got a fat bloke like Ruiz beat Antonio Joshua. You kind Anthony Joshua. Yeah, you'd look at that and go, yeah, that shouldn't happen. But shit happens every now and again. If it happened again, it might be a different outcome.
I have to read the rest of the books. I think there's quite a few of them as well, wouldn't there? But
yeah, they're a good laugh.
So Shane, do you want to do your final army, and then we'll wrap up?
Yeah, very quickly then. So the other list I did was the Space Wolves, the Claws of Fenris. And this one I actually did as a battalion because I had the troops to fill it, so I didn't have to worry about, because I didn't have enough troop choices. So for a battalion, you have to take, I think it's 2 HQ and 3 troop choices to actually spin it out as a battalion. And so that's what I did on this one. So in HQ, I've got Warlord as Ragnar. so Ragnar Blackmane, with the Warrior Born trait, which just gives him, I think it gives him a buff in combat with units that are around him at the time. And then the other HQ is Najal Stormcaller. So he's not a librarian; he's a wolf priest, which is a very important distinction because obviously the Space Wolves don't like psychers either, unless they're their own. So he's a wolf priest, and I picked Living Lightning, Murderous Hurricane, and Tempest Wrath as his powers. But I was trying to work out if it's a named psyker, whether or not you can or can't take Smite. But I haven't dug into it enough yet to work it out. But that's one of the psychic powers. Glenn, what do you
I think they all come as standard, regardless of you don't so much take Smite as it's just
have it.
auto included.
Yeah,
you just have it.
That's what I thought. So he'd have Smite as well then, which is probably the one that I'd end up using most. Then I also had a Wolfguard battle leader in Terminator armor coming along as part of the HQs as well, who comes with the Champion of Humanity trait, which just gives him a warlord relic. In this case, I've also gone for a helm, and that's the Mountain Breaker helm. So we'll join in.
So many helms.
Yeah, more helms. And then I also had the stratagem, the hero of the chapter. Which again, I think it's a pre-battle stratagem that you have to put in place. Troop choice, I did go for the assault interceptors. Intercessors, not interceptors. So there's 5 of those. So a sergeant, and then the standard 4, all with Astartes power sword, not power swords. What are they?
Speed swords.
That's it. Yep. And then 2 Bloodclaw packs. Broken into one Bloodclaw pack, but broken into combat squads. So 1 with plasma pistol as a special weapon, Bloodclaw pack leader with power fist, and then 3 standard Bloodclaws with chainswords and bolt pistols. And then on the other combat squad, same again, 1 plasma pistol, Bloodclaw leader with power fist, and then 3 Bloodclaws with bolt pistols and chainswords. And then an elite Wolfguard Terminator pack. So 1 pack leader, 1 with the assault cannon, and then 3 with storm bolters and power swords, I believe. And then in heavy support, I whacked in an Eradicator squad as well. So the Eradicator Sergeant, the 2 Eradicators, because I was looking at it, I was like, I don't know if I've got enough, if I've got any anti-tank. Obviously, the Terminators are anti-tank if they can get in close enough, but I had nothing beforehand. So that I put that together. Actually, that was based on models I've got that I want to paint up for my first 1,000 points. It's basically the order in which I'm going to paint them. But then for the 2,000 point list, that's where I add in stuff like the Thunderwolf cavalry and stuff like that to make it a bit quicker. Because that's my concern looking at this list right now, is that it wants to be fast and get up quick into people, but just can't because it doesn't have stuff like rhinos or thunderwolves. And so that would be what would be added to it when we get to the 2,000 points.
Or a drop pod.
Or a drop pod, yeah, quite. But yeah, that's the second list.
So with your Ragnar, is there 2 separate data sheets, I'm assuming, for the older Ragnar and the Primaris one, or is it just they just do the same thing?
They just do the same thing. So the only difference, like with the new Ragnar model, is that they just updated him. So they were like, right, we're going to get a new model out there, and we're going to say he's crossed the Primaris Rubicon, and just update his stats.
So it's just an aesthetic thing more than anything else.
Yeah, they just wanted a new model, make him a bit bigger. But I like the old school one, so I was like, I'm not going to buy the new model. I'll just use the new data sheet with the old model. It's the same as my the only Stormcaller sculpt or model you can get at the moment comes in Terminator armor, whereas the original one was just in power armor. So my model's in power armor, but he'll fight with the stats as if he was in Terminator.
Yeah, cool.
Does he not have the option of, is it runic armor? Is that what the option used to be?
I don't know if he does anymore. I don't.
Yeah, because it wasn't so much power armor, because it was a bit better than power armor. I think it was runic armor, but I'm not sure if it's still
I don't know if
an
it's
option
still
anymore, because it's such an old model now.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get it, so I don't know if you even have the option of runic armor anymore.
I don't think you can. Like, as I said, he's definitely got the runic armor on the model at the moment.
Yeah.
Because I had to paint all the runes, but yeah, it's I think now it's just Terminator armor.
It is a shame sometimes when all rules disappear because the model isn't available anymore.
Yeah.
I think it'd be nice if you still had those rules, because a lot of people are going to have the classic models. Well, I say a lot of people, some of the older gamers, and other collectors will go out of their way to try and, find those models if the option is there to fill it on the battlefield.
So that's what I was thinking. That's why I asked about Ragnar. I mean, it would have made sense to me to leave them as separate, because obviously, if you're a Primaris, you're supposedly have been upgraded, haven't you?
Yeah.
You should be stronger, bigger.
Yeah.
So really, the stats should be different on the two different models, and you can obviously go with like a classic one or the modern one or whatever. That would be a nice option to have.
Yeah, but you don't want to pull too much of that thread, because technically the game's moved forward about 200, 300 years. So pretty much all of like my named guard characters, they dead. They dead a long time now, because they're basically human and they ain't going to be survived. Like, they've reached the peak of their powers in 8th edition. To then move forward 200, 300 years. Yeah, Pask, he's going to be dead a long time.
And having said that, none of them are actually alive anyway, are they?
No, they are.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. That does make sense. Like, if you want to sort of have it like it's got to be sort of consistent in it with the lore to some degree. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense.
I like that though. It's a nice Space Wolfy charge forward, smash things in the face.
Yeah.
List. Yeah.
So Death Metal versus Claws of Fenris, who wins?
Oh, I think just them two against each other. I think the Claws of Fenris win, because that's a list that's been built with actually I've been able to pick models that I wanted to put in there. Whereas the Death Metal was just, that's what I got in the Adominus box, and it just happens to come up to 1,000 points. So I think that's it. I'll play with the Necron one, because it's always nice to try out different armies and see what they have. But the one I want to play with will be the Wolves.
Cool. So that's our lists. Please let us know in the comments, because you've probably been listening along and screaming at some of us about our ineptitude, and we'd love to hear about it, because we'll probably hear about it from Glenn after we go off air.
Just read your Codex, for God's sake. That's the main point.
I don't want, that's work, man.
Right, John.
Anyway.
Let's make a promise, right? By the time we do the next podcast, we'll have read at least the stratagems and everything we need for our list building.
Sure.
You don't look too sure, really.
I promise. I promise.
Just read the back bit, like data sheets from back. Stay away from the front bit if you don't want the heresy to be spoiled for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's no rush, is there? Because I'll read them on the day we play a game. Okay. That's the aim, and then I can be like, hang on, I've got my Codex here. Anyway, I digress. Thanks for watching. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those other places. If we haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. And that, to end these army lists, that is Exterminatus.
As always, we would like to thank you for listening to our Iron and Ceramite podcast. If you liked us, then you can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any other good podcast services. Just remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Right, I've hit record, so we're good to go.
Cool.
Good to go. Before that, has anyone actually been working on anything themselves this week?
What about
I mean,
yourself,
yeah.
mate?
Ask that question again.
All right. Well, just I can just cut in now. So just start. You start talking, Dave. Cool. Right. Anything else we want to cover, or should we move on?
I think move on. Yeah, I'm finished.
Yeah, just pour a drink because it sounds like I'm pissing. So
Sounds like you're pissed.
I wish. Not yet.
What was you drinking? I didn't see earlier.
Only Carlsberg. It's like a Pilsner.
I know what Carlsberg is. I couldn't
No,
see it.
it's not. No, Carlsberg aren't usually Pilsners, are they?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what Carlsberg is.
The new fancy one. I don't know.
Oh,
It's nice anyway.
very nice. Cool. Right. Ready?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. One second, guys. I've got to shout at the children. Sounds like they're going to come through the ceiling. One sec.
Bit young for that.
Yeah, I found it really difficult building a list.
Is that the
Dave,
reading
Really
part of it?
difficult.
Have you heard the reading part? Have you? Nothing. Don't worry. Have you heard
Did I
anything
miss
else
something?
about if they're gonna? No,
Yes.
Glenn was just slating you behind your back while you.
It's
Have
fine.
you,
I'll hear it later.
Oh, right. So where are we now? Is that the end? Is that pretty much it? We covered
Well,
everything. Or?
Shane,
we've
do you want
covered
to
everything.
do your
Oh, yeah.
your Space Wolves?
I mean, I can run through them quickly, but I think
I
they're
go
gonna,
for a Tinkle Fest.
if you want.
Only if you
My
promise
tiny
never to
little
say
man.
that again. Never.
Tinkle. That is Exterminatus.
Ugh.
You love it. You love it.
Right. Cool. See you later.
Cool.